The old man sets up his sniper rifle on a stool and lines up the crosshairs on the three monsters in suits across the street. A clean kill shot would let this scum off way too easy, so Ivan slowly swings the muzzle and locks onto the cocky blonde punk standing right in the middle. Right at that moment, the lowlife is smugly clamping a champagne bottle between his knees, getting ready to celebrate. The instant the cork pops, Ivan squeezes the trigger, and the bullet screams out, blood and shards spraying everywhere, as a long-planned hunt gets disguised as a freak accident, wrecking the punk's tool of the crime in the same shot. And the old man calmly packs up the rifle, slips on his coat, picks up the shell casing, and quietly slips downstairs and blends into the park. He sits back down with the crowd playing chess, and the very game he started earlier hasn't even finished yet. In his mind, he's just collected the first blood debt owed to his shattered granddaughter. The reason Ivan goes this far is because those three monsters committed a sin no man could ever forgive. That day, Ivan's granddaughter Katya is walking home from school and passes by the apartment the three creeps share. Down on the street, they instantly get nasty ideas, so two of them hurry down and stop her, pretending to invite her up for a friend's birthday party. And even though Katya instinctively says no, the two won't quit, going as far as dropping to their knees in public. And since they're old high school classmates, she finally caves and agrees, never realizing that one step inside is a step straight into hell. Because while she's singing happy birthday, she has no clue that Vadim is quietly tipping a bottle of some unknown liquid into her glass behind her back. Then the three of them egg her on together until she downs the drink, and seconds later, the whole room starts spinning. Naive Katya thinks she just drank too much and tries to force her shaky legs toward the door, but the three creeps close in and surround her. Their true colors come out as the beasts take turns brutally violating her. Only after dark do they finally let the battered girl go, and the guilty Vadim fakes a little pity by forcing $50 into her bag, hoping that scrap of money will buy her silence and bury his monstrous crime. But Katya staggers out of the apartment full of disgust and despair, furiously hurls the cash into the street, and drags her broken body home like a ghost. Back home, she collapses behind her bedroom door and breaks down sobbing. When grandfather Ivan sees the state his granddaughter is in, his heart sinks and he rushes over to ask what happened. Through her tears, Katya pours out the nightmare. And the moment Ivan hears what those animals did to her, rage erupts inside him. So he grabs an axe and storms out, ready to take the three of them down, only to run straight into Alexei, the young neighborhood cop. Alexei sees the scene and quickly steps in to hold the old man back. Alexei is honest and decent to the core, and once he hears the cruel truth, he's filled with grief and sympathy, calming the furious old man down and telling him to stay home and look after his hurt granddaughter while he handles the rest. Soon enough, the police roll up to the apartment for the bust, the chief leading the charge with an AK-47, kicking the door clean open and storming inside, and the three creeps get caught totally off guard, scared half to death and forced to surrender without a fight. At first, the three of them try their luck, denying everything and making up lies to weasel their way out. But once the cops pull out the bedsheet stained with Katya's blood as hard evidence, they can't talk their way out anymore and finally confess to everything. Just when it seems the case is closed and justice is finally coming, things take a twist as the police colonel himself suddenly shows up at the scene. Turns out the curly-haired one, Vadim, is actually his own son. So the colonel flips on the spot, leaning hard on the local chief and demanding he take Vadim out of there. And when the chief refuses to bow to power, the colonel throws his weight around and falsely accuses the interrogation of being a forced confession. All the earlier confessions are thrown out, and from this moment on, the real tragedy that crushes the weak is only just beginning. Not long after, Katya gets a notice from the prosecutor's office, claiming the local government has a duty to mediate, and they'd like to settle the whole thing quietly. It's a clear attempt to sweep the crime under the rug, but Ivan flat out refuses to back down and personally takes his battered granddaughter straight to the prosecutor's office. He goes there to confront them, but he never imagines that the prosecutor holding all that power has zero sympathy and zero conscience, treating them with a flippant, mean attitude instead. He twists right and wrong on purpose, openly questioning Katya and accusing her of loose behavior, claiming she only went near those guys because they were handsome and rich and was trying to shake them down afterward. It's painfully obvious the prosecutor has already been quietly bought off by the colonel. Those cruel and venomous words cut into Katya like sharp blades, wounding her a second time, pushing her already broken spirit to the edge of collapse, and even driving her to think about ending her own life. This drives the helpless old man into a total dead end. And what wrecks him even more is that not long after, the three monsters are actually released without charges. And once free, they don't tone it down at all, instead acting even more arrogant and shameless than before. They party and drink right down on the street on purpose, showing off their privilege and flaunting how untouchable they are. And Ivan, refusing to give up, clings to one last sliver of hope and puts on the great patriotic war uniform he's kept for decades, the orders on his chest earned with blood, standing as proof of the years he fought and bled for his country. All Ivan wants is to trade a lifetime of honor for one fair verdict, but reality turns out to be far colder and crueler than he ever imagined. The chief prosecutor just lazily flips through the file without even glancing up at the medals, coldly snaps the folder shut, and dismisses the case outright on the grounds of insufficient evidence. On top of that, he turns around and scornfully lectures Ivan, telling him to keep his granddaughter in line, stop stirring up trouble, and quit causing headaches for the government, shredding Ivan's lifelong faith and dignity in one go. And as he walks out of the courthouse, the sunlight stabs his eyes, but never reaches the darkness inside him. If the law won't give him justice, then he'll deliver it with his own hands. Ivan walks straight to the bank, and since he's lived a poor life with barely any savings, the only thing of value he owns is the old house in the countryside. So without a second thought, he mortgages it for $5,000 to fund his revenge. But the moment he gets home, Katya tells him the colonel stopped by and left a stack of cash, calling it compensation. And that single word instantly sets Ivan's blood on fire. To him, that money is a flat-out insult and a sickening mockery of what Katya went through. Furious, he storms over to the colonel's house with the money, slams it right in the colonel's face, and roars at him for his shamelessness. And later at dinner, Katya casually mentions that her aunt went away on a trip and left her the keys to her apartment, asking her to look after the parrot. Ivan's eyes light up the second he hears it, an idea flashing through his mind, and he immediately grabs the keys and heads over to the aunt's place. To his surprise, the apartment sits on the top floor of Block 14, directly facing the second-floor balcony where the three creeps live, making it the perfect natural sniper's nest. Ivan can barely contain his joy, feeling like fate itself is on his side. And the next day, he slings a shovel over his shoulder, claiming he's heading out to work the field, when he's really sneaking off to Moscow's underground arms market, where he finds a Ukrainian gun dealer who carefully asks him who he's planning to take down. With his eyes brimming red, Ivan tells him what was done to his granddaughter. The dealer sees he isn't lying and finally agrees to sell him the rifle. Ivan is loaded into a car, blindfolded the whole way, and finally driven to a hidden underground bunker out in the middle of nowhere. Just like he asked, the dealer pulls out a brand new SVD Dragunov sniper rifle, a classic Soviet military weapon, and with a suppressor attached, it can kill silently and leave no trace. Back in the day, Ivan carried this exact same weapon across the battlefield, fighting to defend his country. He test fires it on the spot, his battlefield muscle memory carved into his bones and never faded, every shot dead center on the target, leaving even the black market dealer stunned. Under the cover of night, Ivan quietly moves the sniper rifle into the aunt's top-floor apartment to stash it. And the next day, he heads to the park to play chess like always, making sure plenty of people see him there. The moment he spots the three creeps coming back to their building, Ivan slips away while everyone's chatting, hurries to his sniper position, and instead of going for a clean kill shot, he decides to make these monsters wish they were dead. He steadies the muzzle right on the cockiest blonde punk and slowly squeezes the trigger. The champagne bottle bursts apart in an instant. The other two creeps are scared out of their minds, and Vadim lets out a scream like a stuck pig. His tool of the crime is completely wrecked, and Ivan quickly packs up the rifle, carefully cleans the scene, wipes away every trace, and casually walks back to the chessboard where his earlier game still hasn't even finished. And not long after, the piercing wail of an ambulance cuts through the block as the badly wounded Vadim is rushed onto a stretcher, barely clinging to life. And when the cops arrive, they grow suspicious, spotting a tiny bullet hole in the couch and instantly realizing this was no accident, but a precise sniper shot. But with no solid proof yet, the cop can only swallow his suspicion and keep it to himself. A few days later, Boris, one of the three creeps, buys a brand new luxury car, parks it right outside the building, and struts around showing it off. He figures he's rich and connected enough that nobody would dare touch him, never realizing death is already quietly closing in. Ivan slips back into the aunt's apartment, sets up the sniper rifle, and locks the crosshairs right on the car's gas cap without a moment of hesitation. He pulls the trigger. The car erupts into a fireball, and a terrified Boris claws and scrambles his way out. He keeps his life, but his lower body is almost completely burned, leaving him paralyzed for good and unable to ever walk again. Ivan uses the chaos to quietly blend into the crowd, watching everything unfold with cold, unmoved eyes. And it all happens right under the watchful gaze of Officer Alexei, with 2 attackers in a row mysteriously taken down hard, every silent finger pointing in one direction. Suspicion points straight at Ivan, and the police examination of the wreckage confirms this was no accident, but a bullet that detonated the fuel tank. The colonel panics on the spot, immediately convinced his own son will be the next target, and pure terror swallows whatever sanity Vadim has left, leaving him locked inside all day with every curtain drawn tight, huddled trembling in the corner and trapped in endless dread. While the suspicious Alexei drops by Ivan's place when he happens to be out and accidentally spots a key hanging beneath the clock. Katya honestly tells him it's the key to her aunt's apartment, and the sharp-eyed Alexei instantly senses something is off. On his way out, he quietly pockets the key for himself, and meanwhile, the colonel, desperate to protect his only son, locks onto Ivan as the prime suspect, since he's the only one with a clear motive for revenge, deciding to strike first and leading a team straight to Ivan's home to forcibly search it, hoping to dig up the rifle as evidence and put the old man behind bars. But they turn Ivan's house completely upside down and come up with absolutely nothing. Just as the colonel is at his wit's end, the aunt suddenly returns from her trip to pick up her key, breaking the stalemate at the worst possible moment. The sharp-eyed colonel immediately gets suspicious and leads his team trailing the aunt straight up to the top floor. The colonel walks up to the apartment window, takes one look, and the perfect shooting angle is obvious at a glance. He's dead certain the sniper rifle has to be hidden inside the wardrobe, and Ivan sits nearby with his heart pounding and sweat dripping down his face. He's convinced he won't be walking out of this one. But when the officers clear out every piece of clothing from the wardrobe, the inside is completely empty, except for a single cardboard tube, with no trace of any weapon. And even though they can't arrest Ivan without proof, the colonel is absolutely sure he did all of it, and humiliated and furious, he hits Ivan with a vicious threat. What Ivan means is that Vadim has already turned into a vile criminal, and even if he lives, he'll never wash off the mark of what he did. But the colonel completely misreads him. He mistakenly thinks Ivan has already finished Vadim off and rushes home like a madman. But the front door is locked tight, and no matter how much he shouts and pounds, no one answers. And in his desperation, the colonel pulls out his pistol and gets ready to blow the lock open, only for a bullet to suddenly fire from inside at the very second he squeezes the trigger, tearing clean through his stomach. And the once all-powerful police colonel collapses into a pool of his own blood. While inside the apartment, Vadim, driven completely insane by fear, is curled up behind the fridge, clutching a shotgun, totally broken. The whole thing a perfect case of karma serving up what he deserves. While Ivan is left puzzled, wondering how the sniper rifle he hid so carefully could vanish into thin air. It isn't until a few days later, when Alexei suddenly stops him, that Ivan finally puts it all together. It turns out Alexei had already taken the rifle ahead of time, quietly wiping away the one piece of evidence that could have sunk him. This righteous young officer has seen straight through the darkness and rot eating away at the whole city. Alexei doesn't expose the truth, choosing silence and choosing to let him be, only asking Ivan to stay by Katya's side and live a good life from here on out. And even though the revenge is complete, Ivan feels no satisfaction, only bone-deep exhaustion and a sorrow that won't end. This blood-soaked revenge of violence against violence is, in the end, a tragedy bitter to its very source. And inside the quiet house, a soft guitar melody slowly begins to play. Under her grandfather's all-out protection, Katya finally breaks free from the grip of her nightmare, steps out of the shadow, and reclaims the freedom of her own spirit. Ivan stands in the doorway, listening to her beautiful singing, and the tears he's held in for so long finally spill out. Katya knows full well that her grandfather stained his own hands with blood for her, carrying all the darkness on his own shoulders. And this is the only thing Ivan can do for his granddaughter, holding up a sky free of shadows for her in his own way, and winning back the justice that should have been hers all along.